Hi class, it's me again, your professor, Professor Carlo, and today we will be discussing a very great poem written by Rene Amper titled Letter to Pedro, U.S. citizen, also called Pete. Now, this is very interesting because you can unravel a lot of social variables and social issues, and at the end of this presentation, um, I'm actually looking forward for your um, tasks, and I hope you guys like this discussion. So let's discuss first the biography about the author. The author today is Renee Estela Amper. She was born on October 18, 1940 in Boljun, Cebu. As physician, she has served as head of the Boljun Rural Health Unit. And as poet, she has participated as an Asia Foundation Writing Fellow at the Silliman University, Summer Writers Workshop in 1968 and 1969. She has also shared the second Palanca Prize in Poetry in 1989 with Fatima Lim for a collection called All Else is Grass. Her works have been published in 12 poems in 1969 and collected poems in 1990. She has been mayor for Boljun. She has been mayor of Boljun and is an incumbent vice president. So she has a political background here, and you would be surprised because her literature, her masterpiece, also revolves some socio-political issues. Moving forward, Renee's great tribute to the first formal foundry in writing Batalad that were held in her hometown of Boljun, Cebu in 1991. This is supported by the CCP, or the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Butch Bandilio was Batalad president that year and assisted by Dr. Rene Amper, famous poet and physician in his city. Before he was mayor in Boljun, she confronted the government of the city that it will host the writers. Some of her works are Letter to Pedro, U.S. citizen, also called Pete. I'm sorry for the um, pronouns used here. Should be her city, and she was a mayor in Boljun. Now, to tell you that this poem is a kind of literature that empowers a seemingly local story from an old friend along with personal and historical themes. It defines the deeper meaning of friendship despite the barrier of distance. So later in the poem, you would realize who is Pete and who is Pedro. Are they the same? And you would also unpack the historical and sociological themes behind the write-up of Renee. And so this particular poem empowers a local story that this actually reflects realities. Perhaps if we can zoom in what happens in Buljun, Cebu, you would know that this might be the phenomena um, in that particular place. So I'd like you to take a pause, and I encourage you to read the poem first because the next slides would be its interpretation. Okay, so I can't really take a pause here because this is recorded, but moving forward, we'll now discuss the interpretation of the poem. Now, just a disclaimer, this is actually the typical interpretation of the poem, but there are actually other interpretations that we can provide for this literary piece. And I may be able to include some of those interpretations aside from the written ones here in this presentation. So let's start. This is actually the first stanza. Pete, old friend, there isn't really much change in our hometown since you left. This stanza tells that Pete was used by the persona in contrast with the phrase old friend, which represents the ironies that follows in this slide. So Pete and Pedro is just the same. They're just the same persona or person here. It's just that the difference between Pedro is very old name, while Pete is a modern name. Um, this is other interpretations would say that this is a self-reflection of what's happening um, in your origin versus what's happening in your present situation. Now, the following are the ironies discussed in the previous slide. Let me read this to you. This morning, I couldn't find anymore the grave of Simeona, the cat we buried at the foot of Miguel's mango tree when we were in a grade 4, after she was hit by a truck while crossing the street. The bulldozer has messed it up while making the feeder road into the mountains to reach the hearts of the farmers. The farmers come down every Sunday to sell their agony and their sweat for a few pesos, lose in the cockpit, or get drunk on the way home. Now, this stanza tells about Pedro uh, and their childhood memories where they buried Simeona under the old mango tree, and the road where it stood was already bulldozed to create infrastructures. He also reminded Pedro about the river where he and Pedro got circumcised. He reminded him of long blue hills where they used to shoot birds with slingshot on summer afternoons, but now a barbed wire were around it when the mayor's son bought it. Now, primarily, this actually discusses the difference between the old times and the new times, or the traditional practices versus the modern practices. Traditional practices, one example is that Pedro got circumcised, and that is a traditional a practice here in the Philippines. And you can also see a social political story here that uh, the mayor the mayor's son bought some of the land fields, and they placed a barbed wire in it, and this only signifies boundaries. It could be boundaries between the political people and the non-political people, or it could also be, power structures and social structures behind these lines, that mayor holds a political power, hence he isn't authorized to do something, and versus the people who don't hold a power. Okay, hence they're not authorized to do something, and this only means that there are some social community that holds power in it, and they use this as their advantage um, to upscale their lives. Next, a steel bridge named after the congressman's wife now spans the Grey River, where Tasio, the old goat, had split the skin of our young lizards to make us a man many years ago. Now, splitting the skin of young lizard, this only means that they were circumcised, okay, under the Grey River, where Tasio was the one who circumcised them. In this third stanza, the steel bridge with the congressman's wife may be compared to the women as empowered. It's signified by the steel bridge. Individuals in splitting the skin of our young lizards to the pain young boys have to undergo in order to become men, and this is a traditional practice. And I'd like you to focus on signifying steel bridge to empowering women, that for as long as you are um, attached to a political personality, hence you are becoming so powerful too. The long blue hills where we used to shoot birds with slingshot or spend the summer afternoons we loved so much doing, nothing in that tall grass have been bought. by the mayor's son. Now there's a barbed wire fence about them. The birds have gone away. In this fourth stanza, children are more carefree, have more freedom to play outside, like pico, tumbang preso, etc. But now, most of the children are just stuck at home playing technological gadgets. The people in out modernized society have lost their freedom to speak and do what they wanted to do. So there is suppression. Basically, there's comparison between social practices in the past and social practices in the present. That in the past, children are so carefree. They have the freedom to play outside. Uh, they can, converse to whomever they want to converse. Unlike now, there are some sort of suppression. Perhaps there's power structures behind this, that lawmakers provide or disseminate laws that would suppress some social group. Next, the mayor owns a big sugar plantation, three new cars, and a mansion with a gate overhung with sampaguita. Inside the gate are guys who carry a rifle and a pistol. We still go to Conga's store for rice and sardines and sugar and nails for the coffin. Still, only a handful go to the mass on Sundays. In the church, the men talk, sleep, the children play. The priest is sad. The last night the storm came and blew away the cornflowers. The cornfields are full of cries. Your cousin Julia has just become a whore. She liked good clothes, good food, big money. That's why she became a whore. Now our hometown has 7 whores. In this case, the author enforces blatant satire in his descriptions of the old town because of the images of hegemonies, corruption, colonial mentality, poverty, prostitution, death, and secularization present in the Philippine society. Now, these are basically the themes, the social themes or social political themes that you can unpack from these texts. That there is um, hegemonies or power structures behind the text. There is corruption. There's colonial mentality here. There's the existence of poverty, as well as the obvious prostitution and secularization of the religion. This is seen throughout the poem's multitudes of imagery, such as how the author would describe going into a convenience store to find nails for coffins, which refers to death, or how the once fervent church goers and believers are scarce, leading to the idea of secularization as a religion. This examination of society indicates how the Philippines is undergoing a calamity of problems that are not being adequately addressed while Pedro or Pete is enjoying his life in the US. This is very ironic that people still experience poverty, corruption, etc. And there are also other groups who have the same identity, although um, geographically different space. They belong to a different space and they enjoy life differently the way other people enjoy life and in their origin or in a local. The mayor owns a big sugar plantation. Okay, I think this is just the same, but what this means is that the double persona Pedro and Pete is the author's irony, intrinsically tying the person being spoken to his origin. This may seem far-fetched but because Pete desired to create a new beginning in another country, he certainly may have forgotten his origin as a Filipino. And this is what I'm trying to say, that there's colonial mentality here. You subscribe, or other people subscribe to um, a culture that uh, is, I don't know, maybe superior than the culture of being a Filipino. And this is a reminder. This serves as a reminder for Pedro that, hey, you are still Pedro. Or I should say that this is a reminder a remind letter addressed to Pete that, hey, you are still Pedro, although things have changed, but still you are in the same persona. Pete, old friend, every time we have good reason to get drunk and be carried home in a wheelbarrow, we always remember you. Oh, we miss both Pete and Pedro. Remember us to your American wife, you lucky bastard, Islao. Your cock-eyed uncle now calls himself Stanley after he began wearing the clothes you sent him last Christmas. P. Estacio, the old goat, sends your lizard his warmest congratulations. Now, this is how the literature ended. The last three stanzas shows that it is really hard for each other to keep up with a fast-paced time, but with real friends, it will always feel like home when they connect again. Just like Islao, many of us are prisoners of colonial mentality. We tend to see Western goods superior over those made in the Philippines. Now, for your reference, I have adopted this from the Coursera database. So if you need more references about this, you can just go to this site. If you have questions, please comment below on this post. And for your task, look for a local picture that depicts the themes of the poem. One of the poems were colonial mentality or corruption. Now, I'd like you to look for a picture that shows colonial mentality or corruption. Write a short explanation of why and how does the photo mirror the poem. Strictly no duplication of pictures. Accomplish this task by commenting on the main post. Make sure to cite the source of the picture. Now, this is your task for this week, and I'm looking forward to see your unique pictures mirroring the themes in the poem. Thank you so much, guys, for liking and subscribing. Please look forward to my online lectures for next week, and I'm loving this. Thank you.